Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Talkin' Hoops. It's your girl, Coach Johnson, and joining me tonight, we have the lovely Coach Mack and Mr. Worldwide himself, Ron Briscoe. And tonight, we have a wonderful special guest here. We have Ericka Norris, and tonight we'll be discussing a very important topic that is often not discussed that often and can sometimes be overlooked and go unnoticed and unseen in a lot of our population, and that is dyslexia. And so we welcome Miss Ericka Norris tonight to join us to speak further about the topic and inform us a little bit about what it's like being a dyslexia interventionist and some of the common things
Mhm.
that you see and questions that we may have. And as always, we always welcome questions from our watchers and our viewers. Any questions, comments, feel free to chime in. Welcome, Ericka. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. What a very important topic tonight. And we are so excited to have you on the show to dive a little bit deeper about dyslexia and what that looks like and how that can impact and affect a person's everyday life.
Absolutely. One of the things I've been a dyslexia interventionist for the last 5 years, but prior to, I was a reading teacher for 18 years. And in the classroom, being a reading teacher, I started to see the struggles more and more and more with students. So it became very prevalent that students needed extra help and more help than they were getting. And now, fast forwarding till today, being an interventionist, when I talk to people all the time, they're telling me, oh, I had dyslexia, I have dyslexia, or I wasn't diagnosed, I wasn't properly diagnosed when I was growing up. And so I felt like I really struggled in school. I mean, like I can go to the Starbucks and I can get my order, and the person will say, what are you doing? Are you on your way to work? And I would say, yes, I'm a dyslexia intervention, and say, oh, I have dyslexia. It is so common. 77% of the population has dyslexia.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that is a very interesting fact. Now, when you say how common it finds it, what landed you to decide to take that step from being an education and reading specialist to going into dyslexia intervention?
Well, basically, just like I stated, it was just more or less just seeing and
Hmm.
understanding that students needed that explicit instruction. They wasn't
Mm.
getting in a systematic approach. They were just basically maybe getting it on a computer, putting on headphones, and there's nothing wrong with it. Students learn differently, and so they needed a more explicit approach to learning and getting the knowledge that they needed.
And I would now curious. I know one thing that I'm seeing a lot is that reading being a big one in terms of identifying sometimes as a symptom of dyslexia that we see.
Mhm.
But what are some other signs that a person may be struggling with dyslexia? This word
Dyslexia.
is going to tear me up tonight. Okay,
Okay,
let
okay,
me tell
it's okay.
you, this word is
It's
tearing
totally
me up
okay.
tonight.
It's okay. The reading is one aspect of it, but it can be very unexpected. Like some students can be twice exceptional, so they could be a tag student, a gifted student, and still have dyslexia. Reading comprehension is one aspect of it. About memorization, it can also be phonics and phonemic awareness. And so it can show up in many different forms. That's why a student is tested and assessed to see exactly where the gaps might be in the learning process.
So, Erica, let me speak on this because
Hmm.
dyslexia is very near and dear to me because both of my kids have dyslexia and ADHD.
Right.
So obviously, this is very big for me. Can you speak on how it's difficult for kids to really advocate for themselves and the importance of parent being aware early on so that way they can be that voice for those kids when they're in the classroom or let's say in a on a team, basketball team or wherever.
Oh, yeah. Basically, what we try to do is teach our students about their accommodations. We try to tell our students to advocate, just like you stated, advocate for yourself. Know your accommodations so you can be a voice. When no one else is stepping up to the plate to be a voice for you, you can be a voice for yourself. So we basically teach them that you have a right to have small group instruction, things read to you, or your teacher notes even. So we try to teach our students, well, I definitely try to tell them that learn how to advocate for yourself, learn how to speak up, and it's a respectful way that you can do it. You know, you can say, Miss Johnson, after class, is it possible you cannot call on me to read? You know, I'm dyslexic. I don't know if you looked over my accommodations, but I'm dyslexic and I don't feel comfortable reading out loud. So
Mhm.
things like that, I always tell my students, learn how to advocate for yourself, speak up and be the voice that you need to have speaking up for yourself, even when there are times where you might feel uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, it's usually a reason why you're uncomfortable. So, and when I spoke to several different athletes about this, knowing that I was going to come on here and speak about it. And I talked to them about like being a dyslexic student and being an athlete, and what were some of the things that you struggled with, or some of the things that you had to overcome being an athlete and going out on the court, things or on the field. And some of the key things that they spoke to me about was just like I had to learn how to be confident. I had to
Mhm.
learn that confidence was key. If I wanted to like read or I couldn't I wanted to read out loud, I had to hone in on that confidence and say, hey, I may struggle through some words, I may mispronounce some words, but that confidence is going to carry over from the classroom to the basketball court or to the football field. So one of the key
Mhm.
things I had to learn about was being confident in my skills and my abilities and my struggles. They also spoke about that organization was key because sometimes when a student is dyslexic, they struggle with being organized. They may have
Mhm.
papers and things all over the place, but they also told me I had to learn how to be organized. I had to understand that my notes had to be organized, my backpack had to be organized because when I got ready to go play, I got ready to talk to the coach about things, I had to have things organized for them to understand me. And for me to advocate and speak up for myself, I had to have things in a certain way. And they also talked about being prepared. Being prepared was important. They was saying, like, if we're going to have a reading assignment, I know I have to read in advance. So, where other
Mhm.
people may just basically go in and know how to read and comprehend and understand and analyze the text, I have to go home and I have to do it ahead of time so that I am prepared. And that being prepared like that, it propels itself when I'm outside playing or when I'm on the court, when I'm practicing. And so it was interesting to get a lot of the feedback from students, athletes that's in college now, getting ready to graduate college that's dyslexic. And I asked those questions like, did it hamper you in any way? And what about your friends? Were you being made fun of? And they was like, not necessarily. It built a lot of character in me because I knew I had to work harder. I had
Mhm.
to work harder to overcome some of the obstacles. I had to work harder just because I knew I have a disability, but having a special abilities as well. You know, students with dyslexia, they have talents in so many different areas. It's just about honing those talents and, you know, just understanding what your talents are. Like many people have many multiple talents. But I also read about, I read an article where they were talking about nowadays that employees are looking for student or I'm sorry, not students, young adults or people that's dyslexic
Oh,
because they
wow.
have the ability. Yeah, they said that they have the ability to see things outside of the box. Their
Very true.
processing is so different that they have special abilities, and whereas a lot of people that they hire, they think within this box.
Mhm.
But now they're saying like the dyslexic brain, it sees things differently and it could come to the
Mhm.
table and have a different perspective on things. And they said like 50% of the people that work for NASA are dyslexic.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and I when I read and I see things, I go back and I report things to my students. I am a voice for them, and I tell them things like that. You know, guys, where you're looking at, I have this disability and I can't, but you have special abilities, and it's so important for you to understand that and hone in on those abilities. Get out there and know that you can do whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it's sports. And we today, as a matter of fact, I was talking to my students that play sports
Uh-oh.
Uh,
I think
I think we
connection might have
lost
been
her.
going in and out. But when we do come back, we do have a question from Net Thomas that I definitely would love to ask Erica and make sure we get that question asked about what are the earliest ages of someone having dyslexia.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
very informative information. What it actually makes me want to know, hearing this information from Erica, is, and I doubt that she would have, I mean, anybody would have this statistic, but I wonder how many cases are going undiagnosed,
Oh, wow.
and
That
Yeah.
what does that
yeah.
percentage look like?
And, actually,
That's a good
I can't
question.
tell your percentage, but I can speak to that personally again, because both of my kids are that way, and
Mhm.
with him, being that we're from Mississippi, Mississippi does just not have the resources for
Mm,
dyslexia students, except
Right.
for those that may have like a severe case.
Hmm.
mhm,
Um, and part of the reasons why I moved to Texas is because I knew the state of Texas actually, by law, they have programs and everything such as that for kids with dyslexia.
Hmm.
My son was third grade, I believe, second or third grade when I got him tested. His teacher, who was his first grade teacher, I believe, I'm trying to make sure I don't get my years running together. She actually had him tested for the gifted program, and he tested
mm,
twice and missed by 1 point both
Oh,
times. So as
wow.
Erica was stating, a lot of dyslexic kids are very gifted, they're very intelligent, and as she stated, they do see things differently. And I can attest that with my son Micah, especially when he's playing basketball. And he can literally like get a pass through some kind of way. And I say to myself, like, how in the world did you get that through? So he really does see things differently. But getting back to what you were stating, um, being that my son was in the third grade, I spoke to the principal about it, and she just brushed it off and was just like, "Oh, he's just being a boy." So they
Hmm.
view it as
mm,
kids just being typical kids when actually he did have a learning disability. He was diagnosed with dyslexia, and so that's for because I started recognizing certain signs, and because I knew how intelligent it was, and I noticed like certain things he wasn't catching on to when it came to reading. I was able to make that extra step to get him tested. And sure enough, he was. And so thankfully, I was, proactive with being able to get my son tested and be able to learn about what it is and how I can help him growing up. I mean, you got to think about it. He's a black male in an all black community, and we're in a community where this isn't anything that's familiar.
Right.
So it's like,
Right.
you're having to continuously fight just for you to be treated fairly for the most
Right.
part.
mhm,
Right.
And that was tough. That was really a journey for me, especially when it came to teachers, which you
Hmm.
would think would be more sympathetic, more understanding to the situation. But that was probably my biggest fight out of all is having to battle with teachers, telling them, hey, he's in class. This is his way that he process things. For example, he could
mhm,
be sitting in class, looking off, just twisting his hair because he had twists at the time, and he may not be making eye contact with you, but he literally hears everything that you're saying. That's
Right.
just his
mhm,
way of being able to cope. That's just his way of being able to process things. So those are some of the
Exactly.
things that I did have to battle with teachers, telling them, no, this is why he's this way. He's listening to you. This is the way that he process things.
Right.
And so just having to
Right.
make that adjustment and continuously, discuss that was, again, it's a
It's
battle.
tough.
So Erica can definitely speak more on that.
Yes, Erica, really quick before while we had lost you, we had a
I'm
question. That's
sorry.
a that's all right. Listen, technology is great until it isn't.
That's
So,
Right?
correct. Absolutely correct.
but we did have a question from Net Thomas that was asking, what are the earliest ages that you can identify or start to see signs of dyslexia?
Well, they're starting to identify it as early as first grade.
Mhm.
Okay, that's
So
pretty
they're
young.
starting the process now in comparison to years and years ago. The process now, the assessing process is starting like kindergarten and first grade. So they're
Mhm.
looking for like that comprehension, word identifications, phonic and phonemic awareness. Are you understanding correlation to letters represent sound? So if the early stages, they start looking. I'm so sorry. This is just,
Right?
they start trying to identify the gaps in the academics as early as first grade and even kindergarten sometimes.
Okay. And then the next question is that, and I was saying, I'm not sure if you would have this statistic, and this is when Coach Mack started elaborating a little bit more, is how many cases are potentially going undiagnosed when there's such a lack of resources available in a lot of communities?
It's quite a few cases. I don't have the exact percentage off the top of my head, but I know they had an article. Think it was on CNN
Mhm.
just recently, and they were talking about not only going undiagnosed but misdiagnosed.
Mm.
The
Mm-hmm.
assessments were not meeting the criteria that it needed to meet. So whereas they were thinking like, okay, this student, we assess them and they're not showing any signs of dyslexia. Well, they weren't providing the correct assessment. That's why a lot of people, especially older people, they
Hmm.
will say like, I have felt like I had it, but I didn't
Hmm.
when they diagnosed me, it didn't come out and things of that sort. So they're now saying that it can be misdiagnosed as well.
And is there a misdiagnosis that is usually common that they would say maybe you're not dyslexic, but you're on the spectrum for something else, and that is
Right.
actually the misdiagnosis, and just maybe something for parents and our viewers that may be watching and listening, if their child has been maybe classified as one thing and it could be a misdiagnosis, what is something that they usually will kind of group dyslexia with?
Well, they nowadays they're more targeting all learning disabilities. So
Mhm.
when they take the assessments nowadays, they're targeting any type of learning disability that may come out in the assessment. So they're looking at multiple things, and well, they're assessing for multiple things just to narrow it down more and more. But it's primarily if they're assessing for dyslexia and the teacher has made like these recommendations. They see they have been identifying certain things that's not transpiring in the classroom or academically. They start looking at everything and then they take it all to the table and they do a diagnostic assessment.
Okay. So they have a better, it sounds like it's a better process
It
in
is
place.
much better- it's
Yeah.
much better than it was in the past because I think they start to well, I realized it like I said maybe 12, 13 years ago,
Hmm.
maybe years ago, I could see like, wow, it's a bigger issue than, oh, they're just not paying attention or they're just twirling their
Mm-hmm.
hair. The processing, it was because everybody, like I stated earlier, it could show up differently. It could be so unexpected. You could be twice exceptional. You could be a tag student and you're writing your letters and words the correct way and you're reading it. But when you say, can you recall the information? They may not be able to recall what they just read.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Mm.
Oh, that's why I think a lot of it was like, oh, well, this child can't be because they're not writing their letters backwards or they're not saying this way or things of that sort. So people, that's how one way it could be misdiagnosed because people look for certain criteria, one criteria or things of that sort when it could be so unexpected.
And we do have a comment from Miss Davis herself, our one of our regular special guests that has yet to be featured, but somehow always featured. Parents have to be vigilant because some schools are quick to place kids in special education instead
Hmm.
of addressing the root cause and or condition.
Absolutely.
How
Absolutely.
common is that?
Oh, it's very common. And now it used to be whereas a child will fall under the umbrella of being just a 504. So they would be a 504 based on ADHD, dyslexia, and different criteria. Maybe asthma, they could be a 504 a student. But now they're trying to narrow it down and really get that diagnostic test and make sure they're covering their bases to identify the child properly. And what
Now,
learning
Erica,
disability? have.
Erica, when you said the 504, New Orleans is the area code 504. When you said that, I said like New Orleans. So I'm glad you
No,
clarified that.
So, Erica, let me ask you this for one of the things that I've noticed that parents struggle with, and this is relating to the 504 plan, not Louisiana area code.
right,
Um,
right,
50 the 504 plan, the FIE. How what are some tips that you would give to parents who really don't know like what accommodations their child should be having versus what the school provides, and how can they really educate themselves on knowing the difference between the two plans?
Well, that's basically something they have to ask questions about. When you
Hmm.
attend those meetings, I would say be prepared with questions. Come to the table with your questions ready and ask those questions. Do you feel like my child needs a full evaluation, or are you seeing that they need to have this need being met? So, and knowing a lot of the times, like you stated, parents don't understand the difference. And so it's important, like
Hmm.
we talk about kids advocating for themselves, you have to advocate for your kids as well. You
Mhm.
have to make sure you understand the difference in a terminology and what's happening. So because sometimes mixed misdiagnosis occur, or a parent don't really understand what their child is being diagnosed with, and they're stuck into, like someone just said, they stated that they're stuck into special education or something, and you don't even, and you're not aware of. Many times I sit down with parents at the table and I'm going through their accommodations and what's going on with the student, and they're saying like, wait, what do you mean they're in taking this dyslexia class, or what do you mean they have these accommodations, but you signed off on this documentation?
Mm,
Mhm.
Hmm.
So that's like not being aware of the terminology. And just because someone said it, you're just saying, okay, since you're the expert, I'm going to take your word for it and I'm just going to sign off on it.
mm,
So it's so important
Hmm.
to just do the research. Like now we have so much information out there in comparison to 20 years ago. So
right.
I was just suggest take the time to do the research, write the questions down that you want to ask, and advocate for your kids. Just like we stated, they have to advocate for themselves, but it's also important that parents advocate for them.
Hey, Eric, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. One
Mm-hmm.
of them is that you mentioned that when a kid is diagnosed, most of the time it's in the first grade. And
Mm-hmm.
first of all,
And
how long is that examination? And then after they get examined in the first grade, do you come up with a reexamination maybe when they're in the second, third, fourth grade, or how long do you wait to do that reexam?
okay, normally if they're examined in the like first grade, once you've been classified as being dyslexic, that's it's no reexamination.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, once you have received that diagnosis dyslexic, they don't go back and retest you to see, because it's a learning disability, and
Okay.
it's just something that you're born with. Like 90% of the students that's diagnosed with dyslexia is hereditary. It's something
That
that
was
was
next.
just passed down. hmm So, a lot of the times when they're diagnosed with dyslexia in the first grade, that's when they start to put the accommodations in place and they start to say, wait, maybe this student needs small group instruction, things to be read to them, the teacher notes. And so they put the accommodations in place, and those accommodations, they may change over time. See,
Mm,
that's the part change over time, and they adjust it based on the growth of the student. Like one of the students that I spoke with, that's the college athlete, he basically stated like, when I was first diagnosed, I really needed them to read the questions to me and read parts to me. But as I became older in high school, I didn't need them to read to me as much. So that accommodation can be taken off the plan. So they may not they may not need it to be read to them any longer, if that makes
So,
sense. So
so,
they
so there is a point in time to where during the process you become better, or you learn to become better, or you become more focused into what's going on.
Right. Absolutely. Once you start to have like interventions in place and you may have a class or you have sessions going on, a lot of the time things start to the fogginess because it is
Hmm.
a blockage. So it kind of dissipates. It gets smaller and smaller because it's repetition.
Okay.
It's a systematic approach and is explicit. And so students start to see, okay, okay, now I understand. When I was in kindergarten, first grade, or even second grade, none of this made sense. But then when you start to really hone in on the concepts of the language and everything, it starts to make sense for them. Oh, okay, now I see vowel, consonant, E. That word is pronounced that way because it's a vowel, a consonant, and then it's the E. And that's just in the intervention part of things, the therapy part of things. And so they are going to always have that diagnosis, dyslexia, because once they're diagnosed, it's just like, oh, okay, you have a learning disability.
Hmm.
Right. Now, a question that I have, Erica, just out of curiosity, how often do you find that you're met with resistance from parents on having that diagnosis placed on the child and actually implementing a plan for their child? I know it can be difficult for some parents to want a label, as they would view it, to be placed on their child, especially when we're in regards to a learning disability. So
Mm-hmm.
just how often do you find that you run into that resistance from parents?
It's not very often. When I receive my students, they're in middle school, and so they're usually diagnosed in elementary, but it has been several occasions that they were diagnosed late in middle school. And at that point, the parents are usually like, I knew it was something. I've had parents break out and cry and say, I've been calling him stupid. I thought
Mm,
this. I'm so serious. I've had parents break down and crying because they
mm,
realized it was a bigger issue and they just thought like I was doing this and I thought he was. And when you tell them this is the this is the diagnose and this is the disability and this is how he may see things or she may see things, and then it's like a light bulb, like this is why they couldn't comprehend, they couldn't remember, or so most of the time, honestly, it's not a lot of pushback from parents because they recognized that it was a breakdown, it was gaps that somewhere.
mhm.
So once you help fulfill those gaps and tell them or explain to them that this could be or this is what's going on, it's usually like, okay, now it makes sense.
Right.
Hey, Erica, is there a percentage of when it comes to race? Is there a certain percentage for black, white, Asian, Indian, or it's just
No, no,
okay?
no,
Okay.
no. Yeah, it's not. I mean, like I said, it is usually hereditary, so it's not a higher percentage. Now, I
Right.
will say it's a little higher in boys than in girls, to be
Okay.
honest.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We have a question, Erica, from one of our watchers, Barry Cunningham. What types of support is there once the special needs child becomes an adult? And it looks like we may have lost Erica
Yeah.
momentarily. As we know, the connection has been a bit in and out, unfortunately. Like I say, technology is great until it isn't,
Mhm.
but she really
Um,
brings about some great points in regards to parents realizing that, hey, okay, it makes sense now, and the gaps are being filled in, that you can identify that something was going on but just not being able to put your finger on it. Okay, and do we have you back, Erica? It looks like it still
Hi
might be a little.
guys. Is the reception still bad? I think it's the reception in this building. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, okay. Now, I'm sorry. I think you were asking me, someone had a question in reference of adults with dyslexia or special needs and what's in place for them.
Yes, what types of
Is that
support
the
is
question? I'm
available?
sorry. What
Yes,
types of support is
when they become
available?
an adult.
Yes. When they become an adult? Um, Honestly, I'm not certain about as far as adults are concerned and what type of support is available for adults.
I can probably speak to that a little bit. If
I
I
can
think
probably speak to that a little bit.
the question that
If I
he's
think
asking, once they
the question that
basically
he's
go from,
asking,
let's
once
say,
they
high school to
basically go
college,
from, let's
I
say, high
know they
school to
do
college,
have
I
like
know
somewhat of
they
a
do have like
transition
somewhat of
type
a
program or
transition
something
type
pertaining to
program
that where it
or
helps the
something
students
pertaining to that where it helps the
be able to
students
transition from high school
be able
to
to
college, and it
transition
kind of
from
helps
high
them to
school to
prepare
college, and it
for
kind of helps
a
them to
job
prepare
or
for
anything
a
such as
job
that.
or anything such
So
as
that
that.
way, when they do get to that point,
So
they
that
know
way,
how
when they
to
do
be
get to that point,
prepared
they know
for
how
it.
to be prepared for it. Oh, okay. You were still speaking on like a college, maybe. I thought he was maybe saying, because I do get a lot of questions from, 30 maybe it's like, hey, I was never really formally diagnosed, so I didn't necessarily get the help that I need. Is it any kind of way? And then they do have like tutoring or is tutoring out there if they feel like they want that and they want, because one of the things that we talk about sometimes is that a lot of people that's incarcerated were not properly diagnosed, and a lot of the things that happened while they were in school was frustration.
Mm.
Mm.
And so they do, I know, they do speak about just kind of having something available when you're past college age, and just having maybe some tutoring and things of that sort in place for adults.
Nice. And
Nice. And
Erica, for our
for
viewers that
our
would
viewers that
potentially
would
want to
potentially want to
know and find out more
know and find out more
information,
information,
how would they be able
how would
to
they be
find
able
your
to
socials
find
if
your
you are
socials if
on
you are
social
on
networks?
social networks? Oh, well, I am on, I'm under my name under LinkedIn. And then I have Raising Hope Learning Center on Instagram.
Nice. And that is Raising
Nice. And
Hope
that is
Learning
Raising
Center.
Hope Learning Center. Yes, under
Beautiful.
my name. Beautiful. Yes.
And Ron, Coach
And
Mack, do you
Ron,
guys
Coach
have
Mack,
any
do you guys have
closing
any
questions for
closing
our wonderful
questions for
guest,
our
Erica?
wonderful guest, Erica?
Well, I'm getting a little
I'm
Well, I'm getting
feedback.
a little
I'm here for the
feedback.
moment.
But
But
if you guys can
if you guys
understand
can
me,
understand,
uh, Erica, you
uh,
was really good
Erica, you
and
was really good and
detailed, and I
detailed, and
learned a lot.
I learned a lot.
So I hope we can
So
hear
I
me
hope
back
we
on
can hear me
again.
back on again.
But
Oh,
thank you.
I would love to come back on. I thank you guys for having me on. It was such a pleasure, and this is my passion.
Uh-oh.
I think we
We lost her again.
lost her
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
But we do want to say a special thank you to Erica for joining us tonight and providing some very insightful information. As we know, we can only imagine how many athletes, especially
Woo.
basketball players, have been impacted by this, and coaches and parents not knowing that their child was going through this, and maybe they were not treated the best in terms of the way that the learning style was provided, the way that the coaching was delivered, plays. I mean, there's so many aspects in which a player can be affected by this.
Hmm.
You're so right, Coach
Yes,
Johnson.
certainly.
During my time working with Nike and meeting a lot of the elite, talented athletes that I had to cover, I could see it now why some of them act the way they did, why some of them was really quiet and didn't want to speak up,
Hmm.
but they were very gifted when they jumped on the court.
Hmm.
Would always tell me, and not want to talk loud just in case, like she said, they pronounced the word wrong, or you know, it didn't sound right when they, just created a sentence. So it comes to mind to say, yeah, I can see why now some of them were quiet and not vocal. But the ones that were vocal and were confident and were talented, you could see it right, right off the bat. But those that didn't, you could now I can understand why, and it brings light
Mhm.
to why they act that way. But it was good to know that she said that they once they realize what their problem is, and once they realize that they could understand how to get better, a lot of them did become better and become confident and are doing well now.
So here's the I don't want to say scary, but it's I would say probably rather alarming when it comes to kids transitioning from high school to college. You have a lot of institutions that don't have a support system for students that are dyslexic. For example, your private institutions, they don't have anything. So even if your child were to have an accommodation, they can accept it, but it's not like there is anything that a professor would be able to do to help accommodate your child. So
Hmm.
going into college, those are some of the things that, and a lot of parents just don't know, but those are some of the things that parents do need to look out for. Is like, okay, if my child does go to college, will his accommodations be honored once he goes here? Because you can have accommodations that last through there.
Hmm.
I actually had a player. This is probably around the time when I did get my son tested, but I did have a player. She was deemed as MR, which was mentally retarded. The school that I coached at was a private institution. And I'm glad I had this experience with her because that really opened my eyes to see, Ron, as you stated, what athletes go through that a
Hmm.
lot of people don't recognize. They just kind of, think other things are wrong. But
Hmm.
she was extremely, extremely talented. I mean, the girl can ball, but she couldn't read. And it was something that she didn't want anyone to know. And
Right.
so, one of her teachers, I had a really close relationship because she was one of my teachers. We had a conversation, and she allowed me to tutor her and help her to study the material and then be able to help her with her tests. So I actually had to proctor a test for her. So that's just how, like I said, it's scary, and it's alarming. But that tells you what some of these institutions are like. Like they don't have anything in place for kids with learning disability, which is sad, especially since you're spending so much money,
Hmm.
so to say, or somebody's spending money, whether it's
Yeah.
a scholarship or a parent.
That's it.
But either way it go, money is being spent. But since so much money is being spent on the students, that a lot of institutions don't have anything in place for kids with learning disabilities.
Right. And another thing to bring up is that's why they are slowly trying to get rid of the ACT and SAT testing
Hmm.
for athletes,
Hmm.
just for students, because of this reason that they really haven't researched the dyslexic part of it uh, to
Hmm.
understand that there are a large number of students that have this, and there are some kids that go into the testing and they do get it read to them. Okay, but a lot of people don't know that,
Hmm.
but they do. So they trying to say, well, like, that's just one of those, blocks that y'all trying to put up to trying to keep a kid from getting a good education when they can, but you just trying to, like, of course, we certain people out of the system. So that's why they slowly trying to get rid of it, and I hope they do get rid of it after hearing what she had to say about this disability.
Oh yeah, and an interesting fact that just came across is that around 1 out of 10 people have dyslexia.
Hmm.
780 million people in the entire world are dyslexic.
Hmm.
That's more than 40 million US adults that have dyslexia, with only 2 million of them receiving a diagnosis.
Wow.
Wow, that is 38 million going under the radar.
Yeah, that right there
Yep.
just amplifies, the need to give more help
Absolutely. And for more
Hmm.
resources,
Hmm.
Yes.
and more resources early on. Coach Mac, I hate to hear that you physically had to move states. I
I
mean,
did.
that's not just, I understand moving a
Yeah.
school district, right?
Nope.
We
Yeah.
we can say moving from a different district or even moving
Mm-mm.
from a different school, but to have to physically relocate your family to another state to receive those resources. I mean, wow, it's
Yep.
really unfortunate that, like you said, all of this money that goes into, schools and institutions and things of that nature, and the fact that how common this is.
Hmm.
The fact
Hmm.
that you had to physically move to get the necessary resources that you needed for your son. I mean, it's unbelievable to think about. But switching over to NBA, there is one player in particular who has been very vocal about his diagnosis, and that is Gary Payton Jr.
Yes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I recently read an article where they interviewed a young child who said that he has, how inspiring Gary Payton Jr. has been for
Hmm.
coming out and being willing to be open about his diagnosis. Again, we talk about people not wanting to have labels placed on them, right?
Right. Right.
Hmm.
So to be able to go out there in the community and do the work that he's doing, it's so great to see that he's putting that time in and letting people know, hey, I'm human too, and this is common and it's okay.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Another also, player WNBA that I'm a huge fan of is Asia Wilson. She's dyslexic as well. I think around 2000, maybe 18, I think is when she actually spoke about it nationally with Don Staley, which was her coach at the time.
Right.
And so that's when she publicly came forth and talked about it, which again is, commendable because that's a scary feeling for anybody to just really come out and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And for you to just let the world know, let the public know, like that takes a lot of strength. And so, huge advocate for dyslexia. She just had a book to come out, or will be coming out, called "Dear Black Girl: How to Be True to You," which I'm really looking forward to reading, because I'm pretty sure a lot of that book itself will talk about maybe some of her struggles and her journey that she went through with having dyslexia.
Absolutely. And speaking of labels, I'd like to transition to the label of Ron's favorite player, the
Oh,
Power
here we go.
Ranger.
Here we go.
The Power Ranger. Speaking of labels, Mr. Power Ranger has made his grand entrance back to the NBA.
Yes.
Mm,
Ron, if you
mm,
can share with us
mm.
your excitement to have your guy back.
You are you are very funny, but anyway, I'm gonna play along with you. Draymond made a statement the other day, saying that, hey, he made some mistakes and he hurt not only himself but his team and his teammates and the organization. But he feels like he's ready to come back. But of course, I'm gonna say David Stern. Sterling said that, hey,
Uh-oh.
hold up, wait a minute. We're not ready for you to come back. So he's still in that, you know, situation where they're not ready for him, but he's ready to come back from his recess,
Uh,
as we would call it, from his little
A
incident,
Christmas break.
right? His little break. So hopefully he can take off that Power Ranger suit, put it to the side, and put on his basketball Golden State uniform and go out there and be a professional and play like a professional. And but I think he needs about another 3 weeks before they get him back in.
now,
I think they really need to send him down to the G League and let him
mm,
play just to monitor
Ooh,
him to see where he's at
he would
because
really
he just
retire
made
then.
get a
yeah.
slice of some humble pie.
Right. So he
Hmm.
can, so you can see just where his head is. If it's going to come back right away. So that's just my opinion. But yeah,
Now, speaking of the
Draymond,
Warriors,
go ahead.
Speaking of the Warriors, I want to know why this is not blasted on every platform, but Steph Curry. What's going on? Steph Curry finally broke his 5-year streak of not hitting a three-pointer in a game, but not once, twice within a 2-week time period with a loss to the Toronto Raptors, going 0 for 9 from 3, 2 for 14 from the field. Why is this not blasted everywhere? Somebody please tell me. I mean, mind you, this is Steph Curry we're talking about. Okay. Now, I don't think Steph Curry gets the same kind of scrutiny as some of his peers, like a LeBron James. But if this was LeBron James, who went 0 for 9 from 3,
Mhm.
broke his 5-year record of not hitting, of not missing, hitting a three-pointer, at least one in a game, and going 2 for 14 from the field, they would be telling him to throw his shoes over the light pole line.
But it's Steph though. So Steph is Steph. He's like, your little brother that you got to look out for. That's why he gets to get past. That's,
Does
that's,
he have
that's
that
little
respect?
Steph. He's just, yeah. That's my little brother Steph. Just give him a pass. He's just having a little moment, but he'll be back. So don't worry. He coming back. He just need a little break right now.
What's going on at Golden State? Is it time for Is the dynasty over?
I
Well,
think it's slowly.
according to her, well, no, from what was read, at least posted, was that they're invested in their core, is what they call them, the core,
Mm.
and that includes Draymond, Clay, Steph, and whomever else. I don't think they're quite giving up on them, but in my opinion, the writing seems to be on the wall sooner than later. But neither here nor
Now,
there.
Yeah, I think they slowly are depleting, not only age wise, but they're looking for some new guys to come in, and they're gonna have to be very selective about who they bring in because Clay Thompson,
Hmm.
that injury, he's really not over with, and he's not playing well. Steph, like you said, just those two games that may be something to look out for to see if he's going to continue to kind of go down. I mean, he's getting a little bit up in age, and he's been in the league a long time, and that's a lot of wear and tear on him. Uh, see,
Hmm.
what is it? Uh, Wiggins, he's not
mm-hmm,
playing well at all, and
mm-mm.
he does have some mental health issues. And of course, the Power Ranger, has been off the chain. So there's a whole lot going on at Golden State that they need to, the organization and the player personnel and the general manager needs to take a good look at seeing about getting some new guys in there. And I read the other day, I don't know if it was you that sent it or Coach Max sent it, was about Curry's brother getting looked at to come in.
Coach Max sent that over.
Yep, that was
Yeah,
me, Seth, talking about Seth coming over.
yeah.
That'd be
So
interesting to see.
yeah, so
Does that make them a championship team, though?
No, I mean
And
Seth
no,
barely plays with the Mavs,
that's
so
what it's like,
I don't know. Maybe it may bring a spark if he gets to play with his brother. They may have bring up some old backyard memories and then bring some out of Seth. I don't know, but
maybe
from the looks of it, probably not.
probably not. I think that's a little bit of the step. Say, hey, I got a little power over here, so I'm gonna bring my brother in. That's what I'm thinking it is.
Is he pulling
possibly.
a Giannis? I got a
Yeah,
question. Is he pulling a Giannis with this? Having what is his name, Thaddeus, on
uh,
the bench,
yeah, yeah,
taking up a spot?
he is taking
Mm.
up a spot, but after we watch that game, it looks like he might be the enforcer, as he has more personal fouls than field goals. So
Yep.
we know Coach Mac, he's making the most out of his minutes. It may not be for points, but it's for something. He's
He's like
coming as
you,
the
coach.
enforcer.
He's like you, Coach
You got
Johnson.
five. How many you
He
got
got
to
six.
give?
He got six good fouls. He sounds just like you. I got
Yeah.
I got six good fouls to give.
Got to make them count.
Gotta
And
make them count.
speaking of Giannis and the Bucks, Coach Mac, Ron, somebody please help me. How underwhelming of a trade and the impact of the trade of Damian Lillard going there?
Mm,
Wow.
Yeah, you know what?
yeah.
I thought they would be way better than what they are. I mean, it's not like they're really bad, but I thought maybe they would be just like smoking teams away. And many times uh, they are close in winning and losing. And I thought they would be a lot better. With Holiday going to the Celtics, uh, I thought they would be a lot better too. But hey, it's like some say, the season is almost half over, so we'll see what's going on. And after the NBA All Star game, we'll see if everybody's going to be looking at the Milwaukee Bucks to be a better team than what they are now.
Now, let me read this off to you guys really quick. And I did see some comments come across from Mr. Johnson saying the dynasty has been over. And in regards to Golden State and Clay to the Lakers, listen, we'll take him, okay?
Woo!
I'll take Clay shooting 1 for 8 right now. Okay. So
That's where his dad played with the Lakers.
yeah, come on down, come on down. But really quick, just to read this off, I wanted to read this off to you guys for some of the games that Damian Lillard has been having. 2 for 12, 3 for 17, 3 for 17, 3 for 16, 5 for 17, 5 for 16, 6 for 16, 7 for 21.
Sound like
Woo.
some
And
dates.
there's more. And it sounds like dates, right, Coach Mac? I have a 5 for 15 and a 7 for 20 that I decided to leave off, but I could keep going. What do you think, from you guys' perspective, is the cause for such poor shooting from a player who is usually more efficient than this? That we've seen much better efficiency from Damian Lillard in the past before with the Blazers, and now that he's here, like shooting bricks, building a house. What do you guys think is maybe
You know what?
the big difference?
I think in this may be far fetched, but I think the in season tournament may have an effect on the players as
Hmm.
far as their performance. Because you got to think about how intense things were early on, and that's definitely out of the norm. And
Hmm.
so, most of them pretty much don't show up preseason anyway. And so
Yeah,
now that they are having to play games at a competitive or intense spirit or intense manner, I think it is probably having an effect on them now as far as the way that they're performing. I believe they start out high, they're gonna have a low or a mid season, then after that, probably about that second half, I think things are probably gonna pick back up. So it's just a little dip, kind of like the stock sometimes. You start up high, then you get that dip, and then you surge back up.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe they like
Ron.
the stock market. I don't know.
He's in a slump, as you can see from the numbers that you read to us. But hopefully he can recover from that, and as the second part of the season goes on, he can play better and shoot better. But we all have our slumps. We all have our up and downs, like Coach Mike said. So we'll see. And if he doesn't, then Coach Johnson, bring him back up again and let us go ahead and see what's up with this dude.
Now, I am curious. What do you guys rate that trade? What do you rate that trade now? Do you
Oh,
say great decision or eh?
I still have a wait and see
Still
type
wait and see?
attitude. I,
Fair.
I
That's
I have a
fair.
wait and see attitude with that
Yeah.
trade.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, my next question for you guys, and I've been waiting to ask you guys these questions on the show, but I said, I'm not gonna ask in the chat. I'm gonna wait till we're live so I can get everybody's first thought.
Great.
At the point that we're at right now, this far in the season, based on where we're at before we hit the trade deadline, who do you have winning the championship or being in the finals championship for West and the East?
That's a great question, Coach.
West,
That's a great
Oh, I
question.
can't believe I can't believe that I'm saying this. Well, you said win a championship. You know what?
Championship. Who do you have in that championship game right now with the teams that everybody has right now? No trades, no mock trades.
We only
Right
get one
now,
team.
who's on the East and who's in the West?
Ooh.
Whoo, man.
Okay, now, mm,
Hmm.
honestly, and this, I don't even know if I really want to say this out loud though.
Go ahead, Coach
But
Matt. Let's hear it. We like controversy.
like the Clippers really got a chance
Yeah,
on the West.
that they
Again, I
do.
can't believe I'm saying this out loud,
Out.
but
Yeah, but they've been playing well,
I,
coach, and I agree with you right now. The way the Clippers been playing,
they have.
I really agree with you.
Yes,
Uh, James Harden
yes.
has been playing well. Paul George has been doing well. It looks like Leonard, who just got that massive contract extension, has been playing
Hmm.
well, even though his injury is, suspect up and down. But the guy that I'm really googling gaga about that's really been playing well is Westbrook. I think
Hmm.
that he's
Yep.
the guy that they say, okay, Wes, the second unit, that's your unit. Get you guys out there and y'all go to war. And they've been playing really, really well with his leadership, is leading that
Hmm.
pack.
Okay, so is that who you rolling with, Coach Mac?
Ooh, you did have to ask me that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Again.
Hmm.
I mean, I can't put the Nuggets over the Clippers, but again, I feel like the Clippers are probably going to surprise us.
I agree. I agree. Now, what about for the East? Who you got? If you need to ponder
Uh,
on it, we can get Ron's West Coast team while you think about your East Coast team.
Well,
yeah,
my
let me
West
think
Coast
about the
team is
East
down
Coast.
to the Clippers and the Nuggets.
Okay.
But I would have the Nuggets again repeating as the champs.
A repeat.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. And do you have your East team, Ron?
Whew. The Sixers have been playing very, very well,
They have.
quietly, very, very well. I like them. The Grizzlies, ever since Moran has came back, has been playing very, very well. I don't know if is he considered an East Coast team or a West Coast team. I mean, in the Western Division.
I
I
believe
know.
Memphis is in the West
Okay,
Division.
well,
Yeah, Memphis is West.
okay, six.
And we have
No,
Angel chiming in from behind the glass.
he's twisting my arm here.
Through the
My
wall.
arm is behind
He's
my
got me through
back
the
because
wall.
He's
my
strong
arm is
arming you, Ron.
yeah, my arm is behind my back. He's twisting it. I like the Sixers, but the Miami Heat is also a team that I like. Even though you don't hear a lot about them, but right now I'm gonna go with the Sixers as being a team right now as being a team that I can put in the playoffs.
Okay. Coach Matt?
You know,
Um, I think Boston will
Mm-hmm.
probably get it, but I think the team that may end up surprising us will probably be the Knicks.
woo,
Hmm.
Not
Oh,
saying they're gonna win it, but I really do think they're probably going to end up being a contender at some point because the Knicks have actually been performing pretty well for the
they
most part,
have. They have.
surprisingly. But um, yeah, I think Boston's probably going to get it. And then I mean, the Clippers are doing their thing too. I mean, not the Clippers, but 76ers are doing their thing too. So it just may actually end up being against. Still can't believe I'm saying this, but the Clippers and Boston.
Okay.
That's
And we do have a few comments that have came in, and McDonald Michael said he believes Boston on the East and Clippers in the West. And I did see that a couple times. Boston could only be derailed if Porzingis gets hurt. Mm,
hmm,
yeah, I can see that.
I can
I can
definitely see
totally see
that.
that.
Heat. The Heat stays a sleeper. They got Jimmy Buckets down there. Anything is possible with Jimmy Buckets. I mean, he turns into a different player when it's playoff time.
That he
yes,
does. That he
yes,
does.
And the Knicks are a very interesting group. They are similar to last year's Miami team. The Knicks are a very tight, well constructed
See?
team.
Yep.
Now, I
Don't
do
want
have
this
to
gonna
agree with that.
surprise you.
I do have to agree with that, but I'm going to go with, and I can't believe I'm saying this either, as a California girl, where the Clippers have always been the redheaded stepchild to the Lakers. But I might have to go with the Clippers. I mean, they are connecting on all levels right now, and Russell deciding to come off the bench was probably the best decision that he could have made as a player for himself and also for his team as a teammate.
Hmm.
What a great decision. I mean, it allows him to be able to come in with the second group, bring experience, bring leadership, and be able to still have that a bit of freedom to kind of do him without having to share the ball as much with your Paul George and with your Kawhi and with James Harden. As we know, James Harden is a very ball dominant guard. So I think I'm gonna have to go with the Clippers in the West. It sounds weird to even say.
Wow. Man, I'm gonna have to send out an Instagram note on that and see what the Lakers fans say about that.
They might not be
Man,
too happy, Ron. They might not be too happy.
I'm gonna have
But
to
I
get
mean,
this
it's got
clip.
to
I'm gonna have
count
to
for
send this clip.
something.
I'm gonna have to send this clip with it.
Well, they share the gym, Ron. So does that count for anything?
Well, in
No.
our eyes, no.
It's all or nothing. All or nothing. Either
Listen, the
you in,
Clippers. The Clippers might have a chance to finally get a banner up there. So
they may.
they
They
may.
looking, they're looking pretty good.
They may. But we are now entering into a little bonus time. And Coach Mack, I know we like to always highlight your G League babies
Yes.
and some
Yes.
of that
Yes.
good stuff going on with the G League. And I'd imagine we might start seeing a lot more players getting called up as
Yeah.
we're starting to get into some of these trade deadlines.
I
Yes.
hope
I
so.
think so far, at least as of today, maybe yesterday, about three players have been called up. For sure, we'll talk about the one that's going to the Lakers, and that's Dylan Windler, guard, who scored 23 points and grabbed 33 rebounds in the G League, got
Mm.
called up instantly the next day to the Lakers. Can we give a shout out to the G League? Is all I'm
Let's
saying.
give a shout out to the G League,
They
the
well
G
Gatorade
League,
deserved.
League.
yes.
Well deserved.
And the Gatorade crew. But
That's
yes,
what they. That's what they really
definitely
are.
shout
The
out to
Gator.
G League.
Gatorade is the main sponsor. That's why they call it the G League. It used to be called the D
Yeah,
League,
they
but now
are.
it's the Gatorade League.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Some crazy stats being put up in the G League. I did watch, and I forgot to send you a message, Coach Mac. I can't remember what his name is, but I want to say he played with Ignite. And he had
Okay.
48 a couple
Cool.
nights ago.
Yes.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
I can't remember his name, but I do know who you're referring to. And I can't wait for them to come to Dallas in February because I will be going to that game.
Uh-oh.
Um, my brain just went blank on who it is. I have to look them up.
Yeah,
So,
I
but
couldn't
yeah,
remember either.
for sure, Ignite is definitely one of their top teams, and obviously the Mad Ants is, and I hate saying that name, but that's what they are, Mad Ants.
Yeah. The
They are there. I really wish they would find like some different names for the G League, but I mean,
I
hey, it is
know.
what it is.
Very
Yeah,
interesting names, like almost cartoon character like names, really, for the G League.
it really is.
ants have been
But
there
I
for a
mean,
while.
Mad Ants. They have, and they're
Mhm.
actually number one. I think they're still currently number one, as far as the top team in the G League. And you still got your player like Oscar Sheedway, who's performing pretty well on that side. So G League is G League is doing a G thing, and I'm super excited about them, and I'm loving the call ups that I'm starting to see. And I'm just wondering, how is this going to play a role in the NBA within the next 5 years, since
Mm.
so many players are being called up from the G League now than they have been previously.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. And a comment from Barry Cunningham saying, I always said Coach Johnson's game as a Spartan was Westbrook like.
What?
Yeah.
That's a heck of a
So
comment
that's your
there.
game.
Well, minus the assist. I'm not even going to front. Minus the assist.
Don't front, coach. Don't front.
I'm not, Ron, it could have been some more passing going on, but hey,
Oh, listen to this girl.
you
But
know, this I used to, my sister had bought me this hat a few Christmases ago, and it says you pass, I score. And
Oh,
that,
I'm trying to tell you something.
and I
Oh
would
yeah.
say that was probably more me in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But yes, very interesting to see, Coach Mack, the impact that it is going to have, especially as you're starting to see a lot of young players funnel through the G League instead
Mhm.
of going to a 4-year university to try and take that path to the NBA. So it'll definitely be interesting to see the impact that the G League has, and what, how they start competing with other avenues of getting to the NBA.
Mhm. Yep. They're just
Yeah,
one
I
step
think the
away.
G League is an exciting league. I'm glad Coach Mack has kind of have a little niche now on that, so we can bring it up on the Talking Hoops podcast. It's exciting. The guys are hungry.
Hmm.
Uh, with the Lakers getting that new guy called up, hopefully Russell will be able to be traded because he's not doing anything for the Lakers. And LeBron is said the other day that, and I quote, "We suck."
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. And it just when LeBron starts to huff and puff like that, you have a problem with your team. And a lot of the players are not stepping up, even though they won last night over the Raptors by 1 point.
Mm.
And the Raptors, they didn't really like it because they said the refereeing was horrible because it was like, if I can remember, 30,
23
what was it?
foul.
Yeah,
What was
23-2
Yeah,
23 to 2 foul.
yeah,
in
Foul
the
yeah,
call.
fourth quarter, though. In the fourth quarter.
Alone.
yeah. So that says a lot right there. But anyway, if it wasn't for that, the Lakers probably would have laid another egg. And speaking of laying another egg, I hope my New Orleans Pelicans don't lay an egg because they're playing those Golden State Warriors tonight.
Mm.
So I'll be watching them later on.
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah.
So
Well,
let me ask you guys this, since before we, leave from the Lakers, what are your thoughts about LeBron saying that his son could play for the Lakers now?
Yes,
Bronny.
that right there, Coach Mack, was a slap in the face to all his teammates to say like, you guys cannot play, and you guys are not giving enough effort, and you guys don't care. My son can come in here. He plays at USC, and he has a health condition, and he cannot play you guys. Wow. Talk about trying to motivate his team. He has to do something. The leadership that he's showing, and it shows that he cares. He wants it. And he wants his other teammates to have the same feeling. So he's got to reach in his bag of tricks and pull that out to see what they're going to do. And I'm pretty sure they're saying something to him after probably they won that game last night, or maybe in the future when they start winning games, and they're gonna probably say, "Hey, you think your son is this good now?" So LeBron knows what he's doing, and like we talked about in the last show, you have to have some leadership and some accountability, and you got to have somebody step forward. LeBron James, the old G double OG, is doing that.
now let me say this, Coach Mack. Wrong trick to pull out the bag for me. Okay.
And I said
Wrong trick for me.
that.
Because how dare you say that? It would be some choice words for LeBron. And, I am a LeBron fan, truly. But at what point do we have to start looking at the common denominator here?
Right.
And you hear these interviews, and I like to watch the podcast of former players. And for example, Iman Shumpert, he's
Mm-hmm.
done quite a few interviews talking about what it's like playing with LeBron. And he says it is hard. It
Mm.
is one of the hardest things that he had to do was be a teammate to LeBron. And I have to say, I can imagine. I can see that when you have somebody who is so knowledgeable, so elite, um, that is really almost like a coach and a teammate. I mean, the expectations placed on you as a player is high. It is
Hmm.
Mhm.
very high. But to say that your 19-year-old son can come in here and get minutes over me, and I'm getting a check to be here, oh yeah. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Like, I think there is a way to lead, but trying to kind of be disrespectful is not a way to go for me. I don't think that that is the you get more bees with honey than with vinegar.
That's true.
And
That's
not
true.
only that, but you're also setting your son up to have a major target on his back when his
Ooh,
time does come. And granted,
that
he is
part.
LeBron James Jr. He is already has the biggest target
Yes.
imaginable out of any of the former NBA players' children. He is going to be under the most scrutiny because he is LeBron James Jr. And
Yep.
so to put him in this position to now constantly be scrutinized and put under a magnifying glass, I just don't think that that was a great thing to do as a leader and as a father. But that's just
Mhm.
my personal opinion. Well, tell your son that he could come up here to the training facility and we could run ones and we'll see how easy he could come get some minutes. That's what
But coach,
that
all he was trying to do was to put some fire up under them and to get them going. But you're right. To see it from that point of view of what you're talking about, you were very, very right about him putting a target on his son's back, and that wasn't needed. But I can understand that he's trying to ignite these guys to, to play harder and to do better. But he should have thought about not putting his son in the in that picture.
yeah, I just don't think that I don't think it was fair, and I don't think it shows great leadership with LeBron. And I'm a little disappointed. And to just say that your team just sucks in the media again, it's just certain things as a leader that, and yes, you may feel that way, but you tell them that when the cameras are out of the locker room. You're not about to just say I suck and I'm
He-
I'm on your team, because we can't say for the guys that maybe aren't playing, that aren't getting in the game, we can't say how hard they're going at practice. We
right.
Yep.
can't say if they're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning trying to put in extra work. They may have not just had an opportunity yet. Sometimes it
Mhm.
just boils down to opportunity. Sometimes we
Very
see a
true.
person who's been sitting on the bench for a long time. A player gets injured, and now they have this opportunity and they can go get this opportunity. Sometimes that doesn't come for every player. And we can just look at McConnell from the Pacers. Nimrod gets injured. Now McConnell is a regular player in their lineup, in the rotation. He went from not being that. But we can't say prior to him being a regular in the rotation, was he putting in the work? Was he working
Hmm.
hard, putting in extra work? We can't say that. So, just as a leader, I just really would like to see more from Braun and go from there. And we have a comment from Mr. Johnson that says, if I was them, I would say, Bron, I'll give little Bronny buckets, man. Stop playing with me. And I love LeBron James. We are a LeBron James household. So
Yeah,
you you could imagine how that comment fared over here.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
the great
understand.
thing is, at least the Lakers aren't any worse than the Spurs and the Pistons, because that game is going down. The two worst teams are playing.
In NBA
This
history, Coach Back, let's say that.
this
Not
NBA
is
this
definitely
history.
probably
season,
going to be, yes.
in
This is probably going to be
history.
an overtime game. I would be so surprised if the game did not go in overtime.
I would too.
Oh,
And we shall see, but we are now a little over our time, as we always do. It is so hard not to go over when we're with so many things to talk about. It is always so many things to talk about, but thank you so much to everybody who has joined in and listened, and to our special guest today. Ericka was so great and provided
yes,
such great information about dyslexia and how that is impactful to people's everyday lives, and including athletes and basketball players that we've spoken about earlier. And just going forward with that information, and hopefully we can start seeing more resources available for people in schools and in colleges, as Coach Mack said, lack of resources being available, especially in private schools. So just going forward, hopefully looking that we see some growth in that area. And we see Ron's boy, Draymond Green. We'll have to check
Yeah,
back to see
there
when he
she
comes
goes.
back.
The Blue Ranger.
I gotta
The
tease you,
Blue
Ron. I gotta
Ranger.
tease you, Ron.
Hey,
You know
don't
I
I,
gotta
yeah, I don't
mess
have a.
with you.
You know what? I'm loving it. Keep on, girl. Do your
Oh,
thing.
and it's
He's the
always,
Blue Ranger.
yeah, he's the blue one.
He's the Blue Ranger.
Oh, that is funny. Hopefully he could just come back and be a basketball player.
That's all we
We'll see
want.
how long that
That's all
lasts.
that's all we want. That's
That's
all
all
we
we
want.
want.
But thank you so much for everybody for joining in at Talking Hoops on Sports Radio 102.9 The Game, where you can catch us live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Talking Hoops with your Coach Johnson, Coach Mack, and Ron Briscoe. Thank you all again, and we'll look forward to talking to you next Wednesday.
We'll see you later. It's still